Thank you so much for being on Decoding Attachment Styles, where you've agreed to share your story with us and you're here to seek guidance and advice. You've agreed to have this session recorded and put on the podcast, Decoding Attachment Style, and perhaps it's going to help others who need similar advice to what you might have. Are we in agreement?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Yeah.
You have a question for me.
Yes, I do. Thank you for having me. The question I had, the first one I have is I wanted to know more about your name, which is Bahadur, and which normally is has its origin from India or Pakistan, or and
Mhm.
uh, I was just wondering if you were maybe from that origin only.
All right, well, I'm not in the habit of asking a question after someone's asked me a question. However, I'm going to make an exception. Are you from one of these places?
Yeah, I didn't expect that one, to be honest. But yes, I'm from Indian origin, yes, but my grandparents moved a very long time ago.
Okay, great.
Uh,
So similar. My ancestors are from India.
yeah.
However, my name Bahadur is my ex-husband's name, and I kept it because we have three daughters together, and they still carried a name, so I wanted that. And the other reason is perhaps equally important. I was a journalist growing up in Guyana. So my ancestors are Indians. They moved to Guyana where they were indentured laborers and stay there for generations. I was a journalist back home, and my name, well, people know me by Bahadur. So to change it to my maiden name, which is actually Si Prasad, I think it would have been the British changed it to Si Prasad, which doesn't really exist. So it probably would have been Shri Prasad or something like that, right? Or Sir Prasad or something of the sort.
Yeah.
But yes. So to use Si Prasad, no one knows that name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite unusual to keep your spouse name when
I
you're.
know a lot of people have a lot of fights about it, especially when they're dating someone, that person's still keeping their ex's names. Like, why can't you let go? There are reasons for why people do what they do, and I think it's really important to try to understand those reasons. My ex-husband and I, we co-parented really well. We've been separated 21 years.
Mm,
We co-parent really well. We were friends for a really long time. I guess the question now would be, why aren't we friends anymore? Oh,
things.
he went through and he was in an accident and it caused some damage to his brain and it shifted the relationship. We're still civil and friendly, but not
Yeah.
as friends as we used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I guess no one really knows what happens in your marriage anyway, apart from you and your spouse.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I said, that was our marriage ended 21 years ago. I'm 45 now. So, I was in my 20s when this happened. And
Oh,
you're really young and you meet at a different time, a different place. And, now at my age, I could look back and say, oh my gosh, at 24, I had three kids. I had no business having three kids at 24. So yeah, and you could appreciate that people can grow apart. You
mm,
might be good as friends, but not good as partners,
yeah, true.
So and again, this is every individual. Like someone listening to this, they would say, that makes no sense. Like, why are you this and why are you that? Well, this works for me and my family, and my kids are happy and everybody's fine. So you have to
Mm,
do what works for you as an individual based on what you need. And,
okay.
and in our culture, this is just madness,
It is definitely.
right?
Also married very early,
Mhm.
and days I'm like, oh my god, and right now. I'm going for with a very difficult divorce, and my kids are big now. They are above 30, and I'm like, what did I do? Why did I waste so much of my lifetime for one person? But these things happen, and it's never late. I believe. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. How old are your kids?
they are 35 and 32.
Okay. And how long was your marriage?
35 years.
35 years. Yeah,
So
this
that's
happens a lot, especially like now there's so many studies coming out, that women are getting out of relationships that it just feels like an additional stress they don't need.
yes.
And I think one of the things we don't talk a lot about is that at a certain age when, our hormones start to change and progesterone starts to drop, a lot of women, well, progesterone is linked to our patience, our ability to be patient. So when
Mm.
that starts to drop, we get to, I'm not dealing with this nonsense anymore. So generally, you find divorce rates skyrocketing, women initiating it by about age 43, 45. That's where it's like, I'm out, I'm done, I don't have the patience for this. And then they settle for a lot of older women are saying, I just want to hang out with my friends, my aunts, travel the world. My kids are grown, they're on their own. Yeah. So that's where we're at. And we don't talk enough about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And also, I believe we have to find that strength as well. And coming from an environment where you know what it is in our culture. It's like get married very early, and then you have the social pressure, the family pressure, the community saying you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this, and the reputation of the family and whatnot. And so when you are young, you just say, yeah, maybe, and then you have your kids, and you're like, okay, my kids deserve to be in a stable environment, and so you just hope that everything will be better, but it doesn't get better; it gets worse. And
Mm-hmm.
come time when you just realize that okay, my life was spent, and I'm not getting anything out of it, and on top of that, you have all the cheating and the violence and everything. So, yeah, there's just so much that one person can take on.
Yeah.
So, point even if now it's very difficult, I know I can breathe better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
this was also physically abusive.
yeah, yeah, very difficult. Very difficult.
Where are you at right now? Because that's not easy. I'm sorry that you went through that. That is, I mean, emotional abuse is also not easy.
No,
They have the ability to really break down your confidence, make you trust your judgment, right? And yeah, and now you're getting out of it. Your divorce process has started.
yeah, it has, but it has started almost 3 years ago. But the justice system is very low. I'm in Europe, and it's very low here. So it's very slow, and you're just waiting, and you get one court date every 3 or 4 months. So you waste a lot of time as well. But
Mm-hmm.
at least I know that there will be an end to all of this. But in the meantime, it's true that it's still very violent.
It's even though you're
Even though, because all the means that can be used to break me,
Mhm.
socially, financially, all of the means are used. So that's
Are you still in India right now?
no, 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 no. I'm
Okay.
not. I
Okay.
was I never lived in India. I was
Oh,
living in another country,
mhm.
but my origin is India.
Okay. So, oh no, I was just trying to understand the court system that you talked
Uh,
about. 'Cause if it was the Indian court system, I would have been like, oh,
yeah,
that can
yeah.
take a while.
It's like, the ancestors moved, but they took all the culture with them. And even after 3 generations, some people
Yeah.
just don't want to let go of those things, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny because I
Yeah.
get that from clients. People will reach out and they'll say, "Oh yeah, this person
Mm.
they moved from India when they were a child or they were born here." And it's like, yeah, that really doesn't matter. I need to know what happened in the home environment because it's like the parents would have brought their experiences and their knowledge from their parents and then they bring it here. So it doesn't matter what part of the earth you're
Mm.
living. It's
Mm.
what is your culture? What's your belief system?
Exactly.
And not many people are able to break away from that
Mm.
culture mindset, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. But yeah, so that's the beginning of the story. So because of that divorce, I had to leave my country and then move to Europe.
Hmm.
And so this is when this whole thing started, which I needed some kind of advice because I'm a bit confused, to be honest.
Mhm.
So if you allow me to, I will start
Yes.
by explaining how I met this person. I met him during a trip. It was a spiritual retreat, and the retreat lasts 10 days. But strangely, we just talked maybe the last day because the whole time he was being very distant. I could see that he was also of the same origin, but because he was alone and he was distant, I didn't chat with him because one, I was not very comfortable talking to a man. Same
Mhm.
thing, education and all. And usually when I see a group of people, Indian people or similar, I would very easily go and talk to them and try to know about them. But with him, I don't know. I was like, okay, he's distant. And I was not comfortable. And then I don't know why. The last day, he managed to talk to me through a lady friend of his. So he came and he started talking to me, but very basic thing. And it was just a 10-15 minutes social talk. And I felt a bit awkward. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? Why is he doing this now? And then we just separated. He went back to his group and I was back with mine. And the next day we were all leaving and we met when we were going to check out, so towards the reception. And so again back, oh, you going back home, are you staying, and all that. And all of a sudden he said, okay, would you be okay with keeping in touch? And I was like surprised by the request, but at the same time we were also in public and I didn't want to embarrass him, so I said okay. And also from my professional past, I knew that when you are in conferences and these kind of setups, people after 2-3 days, they're like, oh, it was so good to see you and to know you, and then let's keep in touch. And then you know that after a while you will get maybe
Mhm.
text and then it's done. So I was like, okay, no, not a problem. I was not expecting him at all to text me or keep in touch, and but he did. After a few days he texted me and sent me a picture I didn't know he had taken of me, which I was surprised. What is what is this? I thought it was not very nice to do this without my consent, but I didn't say anything. And a few days after, he texted me again asking how I was and all. And after a few weeks, he said that he was traveling to Europe and that he was going to transit my city. And he asked if I would be there. And I was also traveling, so I said, no, I will not be there. And he was a bit disappointed. But then we kept in touch because he started sending me pictures of his trip, of his family, what he was doing, and he asked for pictures. And I said I was not okay with that. And for me, that was it. And again, he on his flight back to the US, because he's living in the US, he contacted me again. And then he started saying very things which were for me very weird. Like, I was really attracted to you. I don't know what it is. I don't understand what it is, but I'm not questioning that. Come visit me to my home. I was like, what is this? I just thought he was maybe, maybe a bit mad, maybe who knows what. And I was just waiting for him to depart. But maybe I should have stopped at that moment and said, okay, I do not want to pursue this. But there is this kind of, again, education and what you've been taught that, okay, you don't interrupt people, you don't stop things. And I was just waiting for him to leave. And I was like, okay, when he will be back home, things will be finished and I will be free. And he said, okay, let's go somewhere for holidays. And again, I was shocked. And then the last thing he said was, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I'm feeling this way, and I want to know why we met. There must be something why we met. And then he stopped texting because probably he took off. I don't know. And so I was like, okay, it's finished. The next day, he started texting me on a very regular basis. He started sending me pictures of his family, his home, his kids, grandkids, explaining everything about his life, what he was doing, how he was living, his daily planning, everything. And I was at one point, I was like, okay, I was coming out of this very difficult relationship. And somehow it was, I believe, maybe, which word should I use? I was surprised, and at the same time, I was also affected, thinking that someone could feel this kind of interest in me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was already above 50, why would he find anything interesting in me? What could that be?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there was this thing which started my interest for him, where I was feeling, yeah, overwhelmed and interested to know what he found in me more than anything else. And I think this is how it started. And he slowly went to say more and more specifically, specifically flirting and, yeah, hitting on me basically, very visibly. It was very clear. And I told him that we are in two separate continents. How do you imagine something like this to happen? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense. And and he said, no, we can make this work. And he continued, and he was very consistent in the beginning. And then he also told me about his next trip, where he was going to go, continued to send me pictures. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was 4 months from the start, he left for a trip. And then I knew that he was going to stay there for 3 weeks. So I texted him to know about him and to check on him, and I did not get any reply. And because it was a country where it was not very stable, I was like, okay, maybe something has happened. And so I texted him again. I didn't get any reply. And then I felt something was off. I was quite worried, and I had no possibility to, check with anyone else. And then I saw him online, and he had not answered my text. And so I sent him a voice message, and I said, what you are doing is not correct. Coming from a person of your age, your experience, your wisdom, with what you told me about yourself, you should not behave like this. This is not proper. You should just tell me that you prefer to stop, and that's it. That's not a problem. We are mature enough to understand these things. And then he all of a sudden replied, and he said, no, I didn't want this too. I had difficult times and this and that. And I said, okay, but you should have at least replied and told me that you were going through something difficult. I can understand this. It can happen to anyone. And he didn't say anything. And a few days after, he texted me again. And then he said, I have to say, I'm back with my girlfriend, and I'm happy with that, because he had explained to me before that he was married, that he had a very traumatic marriage as well, that his divorce was very complicated, that it took him 3 years to get back on his feet, that after that he had a girlfriend, and then he had broken up with his girlfriend. And I said, when he told me that he was back with her, I was like, okay. I was very happy for him. I said, great, I'm happy for both of you. That's the best that could happen to you. And so I wish you good luck, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, no, not at all. At least you are happy. That's the most important. So enjoy it and invite me for the wedding. Why not? And so that was it. And then I don't know why he was supposed then to be engaged with his girlfriend. And a few weeks after, he texted me again. And I was thinking like, why is he doing this? And so he said, no, I was just checking on you and wanted to know maybe we can be friends. I feel there is something. And I was like, yeah, maybe, maybe. And at that time, in my mind, it was, yes, maybe we can, because, this kind of connection, having people of the same origin, same culture, when I could see that he was a family man, I also value family. I was like, maybe we can do this in this, in this world where it's so much complicated to find people with whom you can get along, with whom you can share things. Why not? And it's true also that I was coming from somewhere where I had to leave everything. I had to leave my whole life. So didn't have friends. I didn't have people. The people that I had hoped that would support me, they turned their back on me. So I was like, why not? Maybe we can build something meaningful, a good friendship. And so we started again. And after a few weeks, he started hitting on me again. And I was like, okay, can you see me? Just give me a second, please.
Yeah,
If you allow me. I just need to recheck this because there's something wrong here. I'm sorry about that.
that's all right. Life happens.
Yeah,
And technology.
that's technology. Sometimes, and I'm on my couch, so things happen. Will you be able to edit this? Yeah, this part.
Probably not. I mean, I could edit it. It's just, it'll take too much of an effort for a solo person, and people need to appreciate those who are listening. They know life happens. And
Yeah,
this is quite interesting because I'm seeing so many parts to this story that would have led you to, the being in a confused state, coming out of a unhealthy marriage and not having the support of family and friends, I'm guessing, and finding this one person who is showing you attention that you probably haven't had in years. So
yeah.
it makes sense. Hmm.
But I realized this maybe too late. Maybe not too late. I don't know. So he started again, and I was like, "What are you doing? Be clear with what you want." And he was always staying in between the two, being friend, but two flirting as well, and that was very confusing. And he went even further in the sense that he was even started talking. How can I put this? He was even being very clear on his intention. I mean, and I was really at that time I was not comfortable because I was like, we are so many miles apart. How can you speak like this to me? I
Hmm.
mean, you know that nothing physical can happen between you and me unless you come to my place and we have possibility to meet face
Hmm.
to face and know each other in a real manner, in a more human manner. And so I started stepping back because I felt that there was something wrong. And he came again to me and he said, look, I think there is something. I don't know. I'm myself confused and I need to discuss. And I said, okay, look, if you really want to build something, even if we are friends, the least we can do is at least have a call, discuss, hear each other's voice, and see what we really feel, what we want. And so he called me, and the conversation was very, it was really flowing. It was very smooth. It was as if you were talking to a friend, really very comfortable. Nothing to do with what we had in the beginning. We were very comfortable, and he was explaining a lot about his life. I was as comfortable as well, and we laughed, we joked, and he told me, and I said, why did you behave this way with me when you were engaged?
Hmm.
And no, I had to break up my engagement very fast because of reasons linked to his girlfriend. And I said, okay. And he said, if you stay if we keep in touch, you're going to be corrupted by me. And I said, no chance, because I know myself. I'm not the kind who just let go as easily as that. And I know I need more of emotional connection. And I don't think only physical.
Mm-hmm.
And so we continued again texting, but I started asking him to have more calls, because I believe it's only through this that you can maybe build something real and see if you can grow. Even if with even if with other friends you can easily, call a person. You can just pick up the phone and say, okay, I want to hear your voice, I'm calling you. I want to share this with you and I'm calling you. It shouldn't be something difficult. And with him, every time I was asking that, I could feel that he was not okay with that. He didn't. So he was avoiding to give me a reply. He was not saying no, but he was not really calling me, or even if I was calling him, he wouldn't take the call.
Mm-hmm.
Say, oh, you were overthinking, and I was busy with my work, and I knew his work is something quite tough. So I was trying to find excuses, I think. And because in my marriage I had to be very strong, I had to be secure, and I had to detach myself emotionally from my ex-husband, because he had also deprived me from intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I had to detach myself in a way not to be touched by whatever he would do, physically or emotionally. So I knew I had that capacity with this person as well. But I was not, I had all those questions in my mind. And because he was also regularly starting to, distancing himself whenever I was asking for calls, whenever I was being a little bit more emotional, sharing feelings like I would do with a friend, I would see that every time it was happening, he was pulling away, he was distancing. And I started searching, what does this mean in a relationship? Why is he behaving like this? Either he really wants for us to build something, and in that case, he should show me, or he's not interested, or he's just playing with me. What is this? But at the same time, considering what he had gone through, considering his age, considering the fact that he was a family person, I was like, when you have been through all this, you should not do to others what you have seen already. You should, your behavior and the way um, you are with people should reflect the fact that you have been through difficult moments and that you have learned from them. And here I had someone who was behaving as if my feelings or how his action were impacting me had no meaning, as if he didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so the texting continued. He continued to send pictures and explain and ask for my pictures. And I sent one or two just to, keep the touch, and just to remind him maybe how I was looking and what I was doing. And also because he was sending so many pictures, I was, yeah, I should at least maybe send one or two, although I'm not very comfortable with taking pictures anyway. And came a time when he sent something, and at the same time he says, okay, I'm sending you this and I'm sending you love. And that was very separate text. And I joked with him and I said, oh, you again sending me love, what does this mean? and and in between also we kept on having those messages which were not really friendly, but who were going towards something more. And at that time, when I said, oh, you're sending me love, he said, all of a sudden, he went defensive. He said, why are you taking things literally? Why are you always taking things literally? And I could feel, I don't know why, I could feel that there was something wrong. So I sent him a voice message. And I explained, I said, no, I was teasing you, but it's true that I would like for us to have regular calls. I would like for us to connect in a different way. And I believe that this texting alone thing is not going anywhere. So either we are stopping this or we are moving through something real. And we decide because we are not kids. And the time of our lives is precious. So
Mhm.
we can't just waste it. And I didn't get any reply. And in the meantime, I was also continuing searching. And this is how I learned about the attachment styles and the anxious attachment, the avoidant attachment. And I started to, see the signs. And I was like, okay, so maybe he's an avoidant. Maybe something has happened. Maybe this and maybe that. And at the same time, I was also wondering if I was not going too fast in tagging him as an avoidant when I was not, I didn't really know about those things enough
Mhm.
to decide that someone was avoidant. But I could feel myself that I was becoming anxious with him not answering to text for days, sometimes weeks. And at the end, when I sent him that voice message where I was being quite vulnerable, it was 2 months. And then I reached out again and I said, okay, I do not want to assume anything, but I just would like to know. And I trust if there's something going on, you will tell me. And he just sent me a video saying, okay, this is your zodiac sign, and you know that you should get rid of people draining your energy, and you should release the bad people from your life, and things which were very strange. And I understood it as a message. So I jokingly said to him, okay, this is your original way to push me away. And from there, he went very defensive and he said, why are you doing this? What have I done to you? And these are your emotions, these are not mine. And although I was very shocked by what he said, at the same time, and that was very strange for me, I was hit by the feelings I could see coming from him. I could almost physically feel in his words that there was not only anger, but there was also frustration. There was also pain.
Mhm.
Although it was in text, I could feel that. And so I didn't want to go into conflict because I do not like conflicts. So I say, it doesn't matter. You're right, it doesn't matter. It's okay. And then he just said, okay, no problem. And he started explaining it with spirituality that the mind sends us some thoughts, but they are just mirroring and it has no value and whatever. And I was amazed. I was like, okay, so he doesn't even realize that him not texting me, not reaching out, not, uh, being careful about me, and me feeling being pushed away had no impact on him. And me apologizing just because I was caring for him more than about being right, he just didn't understand that. And at the same time, I decided I would not continue texting him. I would stop the relationship.
Mhm.
And I understood that it was his time, his turn to make things right. And I didn't text him. Only 2 weeks after it was his birthday. So I just wished him very brief message and he said thank you and that was it. And from then it's been more than 2 months. We have no contact at all. I haven't reached out and he hasn't. And so I'm just wondering, what did all of this mean? Am I right thinking that he's an avoidant? Why did he started all this if there was nothing he really meant? Is it that his previous experiences were so traumatic that he He's just playing around with women. What is this thing? Because, for example, if I put myself in his shoes, I think that if I had gone through something so difficult, and I am actually,
Mhm.
I wouldn't hurt someone because I would understand what could how they could feel, how they could be impacted by my actions. And so I would be very careful. And these are the questions I have, and I'm wondering what's the point.
Mm.
And I know that he's spiritually he has done a lot of work. He's going regularly on retreats. So if you are going to all these retreats, you are going deeper. You are so I somehow I would assume that you know more, that you know better, and that you wouldn't behave like you did.
Mhm.
So maybe then the therapy is different from the spiritual
No,
retreats.
actually, no. That's the same thing with that people think. They think that if their partner goes to therapy, it's going to fix everything. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the spiritual retreats. It has nothing to do with the therapy sessions or the coaching sessions that we take. It has everything to do with us and our willingness to look into ourselves after we receive the information and make the necessary changes. You could live on a meditation retreat. It doesn't mean that you're connecting with the deeper message there. So without the awareness, there is no possibility of making changes.
But he was all the time talking about
You could
aware.
talk about something. You could know the textbook to the T, right? I mean, I did my psychology degree. Ask me if I remember anything there. No, I don't use anything from psychology. It's like, you know who Carl Jung is and Sigmund
Yeah.
Freud and all of it. But it's what information are you taking from it, and what are you really applying to your
Mm.
life? And we would think that if someone's gone through pain, that they're going to try not to cause the same pain for someone else. They do that to the capacity of which they're aware. So, for example, I'm going to call you out here. You're saying that you would not cause the same pain on someone else. All right. The awareness that you did not have is that you could have very well done that, and you were doing that because you are still coming out of a relationship with a long-term husband.
Yeah.
So being in another relationship with someone else, the pain that that causes that person, it's not personal, you're not doing this deliberately. But what that other person has to deal with is, oh, this person's got trust issues. They've been in an abusive relationship for 35 years. They have kids. They're worried about what their friends and family are going to say. So I'm not going to be a number one priority.
Mm.
But you don't know that as yet.
But I haven't told him that much about my family
I
or
know,
the
but
around or my marriage or whatever. I
exactly. But what I'm saying is that
things
could have happened.
that could have
Not
happened.
deliberately, not deliberately, but let's say this relationship had developed into something. Let's say that he was nearby and you
Mm.
started going out on dates and things started to happen. And then he says something mean or nasty that reminds you of your ex-husband.
Mm.
Right? Automatically, you'll be like, whoa, this, I don't want to get back into that situation. So you're now going to start pulling away. He's going to be confused. It's a hypothetical situation, right? He's going to be confused because he's now feeling you pull away. You're pulling away to protect yourself. You had no intention of coming into the relationship to hurt him, but he gets hurt. Why? Because we've not really taken space to heal and build up that awareness. So, what he's also doing is similar to this situation. He gets out of a marriage, he didn't do the healing work, he got a girlfriend, didn't do the healing work, broke up with that girlfriend, saw someone attractive. Ooh, I really like her. This is a lovely distraction. None of this is conscious, right? This is just what's playing on the unconscious, the subconscious. It's
Okay.
playing out. Ooh, attractive person. She's not chasing me. I'm used to everybody else chasing me. Why isn't she chasing me?
Yeah.
Huh, let me
And
go after her,
okay.
right?
Okay.
And then you get hurt. But it's not a deliberate thing. He's just doing whatever he feels is necessary, what his subconscious feels is necessary to get that attention that you felt as well.
Mm.
So it's just a big orchestra in the background playing in our subconscious. So it's not with the intention. What we want to do when we're going to therapy, when we're going to spiritual retreats, is dig deeper than what we're just hearing. So, for example, when he says, there's a reason we met and there's a connection here, of course, sometimes the lesson is don't make the same mistake that you did in the past.
Mm. Exactly.
Sometimes that's the lesson. The lesson is you just got out of a relationship a second time. I'm talking about him.
Mm.
Don't pursue someone else. And if you're pursuing them, don't rush in this hard as he
I
did.
I agree.
You see, you've learned your lesson. You've
Mm.
been very careful with questioning, like, what is this madness? You don't know me. Why are you so into me? Why are you inviting me to your place? Why are
Mm.
you inviting me on a trip? You don't know me. So you're being careful.
Yeah.
So you've learned your lesson. Now, I've got a question for you.
Oh.
Huh?
Oh.
I generally love this question, especially with personalities like yours. What do you think your attachment style is?
I would have said before, I think I was probably more secure, but I believe in this relationship I became more, I could see that I was anxious
Hmm.
because I needed to know about him, about what he was thinking. I was reaching out more often,
Hmm.
although for before I was thinking that that was my habit, because it's true that I'm someone who cares a lot about people.
Hmm.
So be it friends, be it family, be it any people, any person I know, I will make a point to reach out regularly to know how they are, to know if things are okay, if everything is doing well. And if I hear, for example, that maybe they have some kind of issue or whatever, I will follow up, I will ask and go back and say, how are things going? And so I was known for that. And I believe that's part of my personality. So I I thought, yeah, I was doing the same with him. I
Hmm.
was thinking of him as a friend and being just careful and caring for him as I would do for any friend.
Hmm. Hmm.
But later on I realized that maybe because there was this kind of neither friends, neither and not more, maybe I was also being anxiously attached to him.
Yeah,
Probably.
that
Yeah.
does not surprise me in the least bit.
Obviously.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
All right, so the attachment style, we know what attachment style we are based on how we respond and react.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone listening to this podcast they're going to listen to you speak. You're very insightful, you're very aware, there's clarity, there's calm. And they're going to say, oh, this person's securely attached. Okay. What changes that is the fact that you stayed in a marriage that was abusive for 35 years.
Mm.
Okay. What changes that is the fact that you learned how to adapt and tolerate what was happening in the marriage because you have children.
Mm.
Your focus became the children. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
All right. You mentioned that when you guys spoke on the phone, he got defensive and you just decided to say, okay, and your words, because I don't like confrontation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a person of fights. Yeah.
Yeah. Questioning how is this relationship going to work? Like you're from a different planet from mine, a different continent. Why are you moving so fast? Why are you sending pictures? You also said, I don't like to take pictures, but you thought, okay, let me just do this. I'm going to force myself to do something I don't want to do to keep a connection.
Also, one thing is that I was just in a marriage I had never dated before. So
Yes,
for
there's
me,
another one you haven't dated before the marriage.
and so I was like, okay, maybe this is how it works. Everything totally new for me.
Except if a person with an anxious attachment, same situation as yours, they would not see a problem with this. What you saw was you don't, I mean, this is what you said as we were sharing. You don't know this person.
No,
And so you're careful. You want to start as friends. Let's see how this can develop.
exactly.
But you want to have a relationship and you're careful. What does that mean? You've done the attachment style now that I've highlighted all of this.
Tell
You're
me,
you're
tell.
fearful avoidant. You're fearful avoidant, right? And what happens is when you've gotten this attention, which you're questioning because it's really coming in, right? And you don't know this person, so you're questioning like, what's your angle here? What are your intentions? What the
Mm,
heck's going to happen? But when he pulls away, the anxious side is activated. Like, wait a second, you were so into me, and now you're just shutting down. Like, what's the big deal? But you've also not developed, like you said, you're not someone who just gets physically involved. Fearful avoidance, especially those who are emotionally aware and grounded and insightful, intelligent, they don't jump in bed with any and everyone. It's not a physic for them, it's not a physical connection. For them, it's an emotional connection first. I've got to trust you before you touch my body,
of course, yeah.
right?
I would have thought that it was the same for everybody, but I
No,
realized that.
only the secure attached and the avoidant, not all avoidant attached. Those who are leaning more anxious, where they need constant validation, will use any tool,
Mm,
including let's get physical.
okay.
All right. For fearful avoidance who lean more on the dismissive side, they're more aware. Those are generally quiet people who are reading the room, taking in people's personalities, and they realize I'm not going to let any and everyone into my home. I'm not going to go sharing pictures about me, my family, my kids. I don't know who these people are. Like you guys are very aware of Ted Bundy and,
Mm,
Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff like that. So you're a lot more careful
mm,
in approaching relationships.
okay.
And
So,
so it's, yeah. Mhm.
okay. And then what about him?
He seemed to be the fearful avoidant, but leaning more anxious because he's coming in really strong and with the photographs and the fantasy talk about what this life could look like. But when it comes to having a healthy discussion to be able to say, hey, me and my ex are trying to work things out, he does the pull away completely. However, what makes me think that he's fearful avoidant? Because when you speak up, when you call him out on his BS, he
Mm,
quickly responds to it. So he's afraid of being criticized, judged, and rejected. If he
mm,
was dismissive avoidant, you wouldn't hear from him again.
okay.
He wouldn't care. These are fearful dismissive avoidant attached persons are people who don't need connections. So they don't care what you think about them either. Like your
Mm,
opinion doesn't matter. One of the reasons that you were able to, and correct me if I'm wrong as I say this, one of the reasons that you might have been able to wish him well, be happy for him after he told you that, he's seeing someone, he's going back to his ex or working things out with his ex, is because you did not develop those very strong feelings for him.
mm,
You were still testing, like waiting to see what's going to happen. So, am I correct?
of course, yes.
So it's easier to let go. Whereas if you were anxiously attached, you would have fantasized very early on about this relationship. Oh my gosh, somebody's interested in me. And it doesn't matter, like, going through an unhealthy relationship for the anxious attached. I mean, this is what I was, right? And when I look back at my past, it's like, my gosh, how did I not see how dangerous humans could be? Like, just be careful. You get hurt over and over and over. Nobody's saying be afraid of relationships, but geesh, be careful. So, anxiously attached people, they wear their hearts on their sleeve. And it's a massive risk. They keep getting hurt.
Mm,
The
okay.
goal is just to pull back and do what you did. Like really question this. Where is this really going?
Mm,
However, I'm going to guesstimate, I'm using that word lightly, that you have a hard time setting boundaries.
yeah.
Okay, and the reason I'm saying that is because you saw the red flags from the very beginning.
Yeah.
The very, very beginning. And you said, let me look at my notes. Where is it? Okay, he sent you a picture, sent you a picture which you were not comfortable with. He asked you for a picture which you were not comfortable with. But also you said something that you were surprised by the request that he made to connect. But because you were in company, you said yes.
Mm, yeah.
Is that because you didn't want to embarrass him?
Yes.
So
Yes.
people pleasing. People pleasing is a big problem in your life.
Because we were in a public space and I didn't want for him to feel embarrassed that I would say no. And again, it was something, as I said, I was used to in the professional setup where you people ask, oh, let's keep in touch. And you very well know that it's not going to happen.
So you
But
did the thing hoping that the problem will disappear.
yeah, I really didn't think that he would really text me. I thought it was, something in the same trip, during the same trip, I had maybe four other people who asked me about my contact and they never reached out. So it's something that I have seen so many times. I really didn't expect him to reach out.
So
So
you're used to what I'm hearing you say is that you're used to people not being of their word.
yeah, but coming from him, and I have to add one thing is that when we had that last exchange, I went back to him and I said, "Look, this we had a disagreement, but I think that if you agree with me, we should talk about this. We should have a conversation and we should clarify things if you want to grow something. So are you okay with this?" And he replied the next day and he said, "I am busy right now. I have a 2 3 days thing and I will call you when it's over." And then he didn't call.
Hmm.
And I said, "No, this is wrong. This is not something you do. You have, as you said, you have to be true to your words. Otherwise, how can I trust you? If you're
Hmm.
true to your own words, how am I going to be sure that whatever you're telling me is the truth?"
Hmm.
For me, is honesty is like the major thing.
And you start to see it very early in the relationship.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're able to call it out, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I talk about. Like people have this belief that avoidant attached people don't communicate or don't, speak up. And it's not true. You just do it when you feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you said earlier, I don't like conflict. So I just say, okay, because you're no longer feeling safe.
Yeah.
It's no longer a discussion. You feel like there's a part of this person that's going to attack you,
Mm.
right? And that's how we tell the attachment style. Go on, sorry.
Or at least that he's not being 100% open with me.
Hmm.
Maybe not attacking me, but maybe not 100%, yeah, honest and trustworthy.
Yeah, and you're sensing that. You're sensing that. So, you know, while the thing with all of us, every human being, we all have a little bit of avoidant tendencies, the anxious tendencies, secure tendencies.
Mm.
How do we develop the secure tendencies or the secure attached sides of us? Hmm, it's not so easy. It's not easy because we're so programmed to be people pleasers, do what people like, do what people would appreciate, don't embarrass the person, that kind of, we're programmed that way. So we bypass the red flag, which is the secure part. All we have to do is see the secure part and say the thing. And then we become more securely attached. Hey, I don't know you and I'm not comfortable with sharing photographs. That's a secure attached person would do that.
Mm.
Hey, you're coming on a little too strong is what a secure attached person would do. All the things that you wanted to say but didn't say it because you didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings, right? Or you probably question yourself, like you said, like I don't know if this is how relationships are.
Yeah,
No.
but I did tell him that I was not comfortable sending picture. I was not used to it.
Mhm.
And after then, maybe a few months after, I sent one or two,
And
just
the reason you sent it was
because maybe that's how it should be, not
okay.
because I was, as I said, I was just learning as well in the process. I was like, maybe he's sending so many pictures. Maybe it's just right for me to also show some kind of interest and say, yeah, I'm trusting you, starting to trust you a
All
little
right.
bit.
So
But
if someone asks me, what's the rule book? What's the rule book on self-love? What's the rule book on dating? What's the rule on parenting? What's the rule on being an individual and speaking up for myself, or whatever it is? It is what feels right.
mm,
That's it. Because there isn't a textbook on it. There isn't a textbook for you, and there isn't a textbook for me. Like we started this with you asking me about my name, Bahadur, right? Doesn't work for everybody else. But I have my textbook. I know why it works for me. I get into my own textbook. So, in order for me to tell you what you should be doing and not doing, for some people, they're comfortable going to bed the first day they met someone. If that doesn't hurt you and that doesn't, if you're comfortable with that, good, that's your textbook. For some people, it's not. There isn't a textbook for everyone. This isn't, those sweaters that says one size fit all.
okay.
That's not what it is. So you have to go with your manual. The reason is if you go against, let's say I give you my manual, I give you my makeup, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you're going through a divorce. And if I'm to say, yeah, you should really keep your last name.
Yeah.
With the abuse that you've gone through, that name is constantly going to remind you of that connection. And maybe you don't want that,
Hmm.
right? So my manual wouldn't work for you. You have to find, now, if I convince you and you slip into your people pleasing and say, well, you know what? Annalisa wants me to carry this name and she does it, so I can do it too. But it doesn't sit right with you.
Mm,
That is going to disturb your peace. It's going to make you build up resentment for me, all sorts of stuff. So it's just better to go with what works for you.
yeah. But at the same time, you always have this thought behind the mind which says, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just looking for all the wrong things to kind of persuade myself.
That is true. Yeah. And
But
you have to recognize where those voices are coming from. They're
yeah,
not yours. So learn how to say shut up as soon as they come in your head.
there's a lot I have to learn then.
Yeah, and look, I still go through it. There are times when a thought is going to pop in my head, a work project or something. There's a voice in my head from some parent or some friend or some teacher who says you can't do it, or people are going to laugh at you, or you're not capable, or some voice, or maybe this isn't the path.
Mm,
What I've learned to do is get in there and say, "Shut up, you don't belong here. Leave me alone." How do you do that? How do you know that the voice is not real? I just spent some time with my nephew who turned 1 year old, and he's just pure. He just wants to explore. He just wants to run about. He wants to, dash out the door. He looks back to see if you're looking at him. And if you pretend as though you're not, he thinks you're not, and he just makes it for the door. He will, it's been 6 months since I saw him, so he didn't want to come to me. Like, I stretched my hand and he pulled back and you could tell that he's not ready. And I see, oh, he knows his boundaries. He knows that he doesn't know this woman. I don't know this woman. I can't remember this woman from 6 months ago. I'm not going to her. But he warmed up after saw me and his mom and dad interact. And I guess in his mind, it's like, oh, she seemed to be safe.
Mm.
And then he saw me in their home, and then he probably relaxed and it's like, oh yeah, this well, if my parents won't let this person in, if this person was dangerous, right? He can't speak. But you're looking at the purity and how he's analyzing, how he's setting his boundaries. When you do something he doesn't like, he'll scream,
Mm.
right? But I'm also looking at what his parents are doing. He tries to dash out the door and we
Mm.
bring him back. So we're
Mm.
telling him, no, don't explore. There might be danger. So now we're teaching him to be careful. How are we teaching him? Based on what we think is danger,
Mm-hmm.
not him,
Exactly. Mm.
right?
You're right.
We're force feeding him, even though he's like, no, I don't want anything. He's moving his head around. He obviously doesn't want the food. We're force feeding him. What are we teaching him? It's okay to eat when you're not hungry,
True.
right? So all you leave this kid to just do what he wants to, then you see who he could become. Someone who is fearless, someone who's exploring, someone who can set a boundary. But we're teaching him our way.
Mm.
And then he grows up with our manual. And our manual isn't perfect,
Mm. Neither, yeah.
right? So what we want to do is get rid of everybody's manual,
Tough task.
especially from your culture again.
which,
Exactly.
which is yours as well.
Well, why I said yours is because what I've realized is I've been fighting against the culture for as long as I've lived. I was never okay with it. I've always questioned it and always pushed back. So I know the culture, but I
Mhm.
also know how to fight against it. And how do you do that? You have to ask yourself, how many years do you think you have on this planet?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And how do you, when you're 85 years old, what do you want to look back and see?
Mm. True.
Yeah, two individuals that I keep in my head. A younger version of me, which I also keep trying to show it to you. Gosh, trying to get rid of some stuff before I show it to you. Okay, a younger version of me, which I keep on my phone.
That's cute.
Yeah, so a lot of times you look at that and it's like, okay, what would she want? How can I protect her? It's part of my inner child healing, right? How do you protect that younger version of
Mm.
yourself? And then visualize an older version of yourself. What would she say about the situation you're in right now?
Mm. Yeah, I know. I somehow guess what she would say.
Would you like
Hmm?
would you like to share?
My inner child, I believe, would tell me, let go of all this nonsense. And the older one would say, why did you waste so much time?
Mm.
Why did you wait it for so long for people who didn't value you?
Hmm.
Definitely.
But that would be a question she asked. If you asked her advice, like what should I do now? What would she say?
Pretty much, I believe pretty much what you said. Is just go with your gut, go with
Hmm.
and go with the feeling that you have inside of you. And that's also maybe why I decided to leave this marriage, although it's quite unusual
Hmm.
to leave.
And
Yes.
both of these individuals are really your higher self, right? Because the younger you doesn't exist anymore, and the older version, we don't know what she's like. So it's really you're tapping into your higher consciousness, but in easy to get there manner.
Mm, okay.
It's just easier to look at your past self and ask, okay, what do you want to do? And really listen to what would that child want to do? And she would say, no, nobody gets to hit me. Nobody gets to talk to me this way. It's not cool. They're not nice. They're not friendly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I believe I guess I have a lot to learn still.
All of us, we all do. And then that older version is going to look at you and say, really? You think at this age I care about that person who doesn't message me or, you know?
That's one thing. But yeah, you're right. But at the same time, maybe I'm just made like this. I still tend to think that maybe I hurt him, maybe I hurt people, maybe
And
strange.
maybe you do, maybe you, maybe I do. You have to ask yourself, is it my intention? Because people can get hurt by your actions, but not necessarily because you intended to hurt them. It's just the ego is very strong in many of us. So you
Yeah,
may not give someone what they want, right? Let's use your marriage, for example. If it made your husband, ex-husband feel whole or more powerful, more at peace and happier to beat up on you, should you stay? Is it your responsibility?
yeah, I believe it is.
No, is it your responsibility to stay for him to beat up on you so you're happy?
No, 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 no.
Exactly. So somebody may not be able to get something from you, which would make them unhappy, but that's their healing work to do, not yours.
That's also true. That's something I've already read about. I just need to apply it now.
Yeah. And when we think that we're responsible for people's triggers, then we're walking on eggshells. That's when we have more empathy than any boundary.
Yeah, this is what was happening because I had to be careful about what I was saying in order not to hurt him. And I could feel that I was not okay with that as well. Because I was like, I say this, he could be defensive. If I say this, he could be angry. And I also realized that with him, and I was like, okay, this is wrong.
Well, a secure attached person will speak their truth, but they do it with consideration and compassion. So they will say, I am not comfortable with this.
Mm,
Thank you for appreciating it. And they're done. If it hurts his feelings that, he feels rejected because you don't want to see his photographs, then that's his healing work, right? I used an analogy recently, someone giving you something, but you can't take it. Let's say, for example, okay, I've got a friend who's allergic to shellfish, right?
mm,
I know the thing could be deadly for her. Am I
of
going to force her to take it because I love it?
course not.
Right? Okay. It's the same thing. When someone does not appreciate something, we have to learn to respect it. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt because I'm giving my friend's shrimp and she can't have it. I'm not going to say, oh, but you hurt my feelings. No, right? I mean, she should look at me and say, well, you need to go to therapy for that one, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. If the people for you are going to respect you, whether they understand it or not,
Mm, okay.
right? And if you
Understand.
have to feel like, if you feel like you have to walk on eggshells, your healing work is to learn to speak up,
Mm,
right? Yeah, that's your healing work. And then be okay with people not being okay with you setting boundaries.
yeah, I have to do this. But you know, this thing that people I read people say, oh, you have to you have to show that you do not care and you have to delete the chat and block the profile and do this and do that. And I'm like, what's the point? Why would you do this? Is this really going to bring you something? I don't believe so.
I know because when you do that, it just switches off the brain. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
and
It
very
doesn't, I'm kidding. It doesn't do anything. It still plays over in your head. And you know what most people do? They go and figure out every possible way of retrieving those photographs and the text messages. Or if
yeah.
they can't, they get very obsessive in their thinking about why did I do it?
Oh,
That is
okay.
why it's not about it's not a one size fit all. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, "Oh, but I'm doing a 30-day no contact." Okay, good for you. What are you doing in the 30 days? I'm just waiting for the person to come back. That's not the point of a 30-day no contact.
Of course, that's not the
Right?
point.
And
Mm,
not only that, you don't do a 30-day no contact with any and everyone. Again, you only know what to do based on what feels right to you. And it is without fear. So some people say, oh, but it feels right to text my partner, my ex, even though we broke up.
mm,
There's also respect your ex,
exactly. Yeah.
and don't do that. So it's not just uh, being triggered to do something and you do it.
Mm.
It's being conscious about what you're doing.
Big lesson. Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Any other question?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. Really.
You are most welcome, and good luck with everything. You've got this. You're on track. Just speak up. That's all you got to do. That's really all you got to do.
Now I'm not going to go back and reach out anyway, so that's dead. But maybe
I mean, with everyone, I think if, like everyone, we've got this one core thing that we want to focus on. Yours would be to learn to speak up. That's it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
will.
All
I
right.
will.
Take
Thank
care.
you
You're
so much
welcome.
for your advices again. Take care.
You're welcome. You too.